If you've seen my I tried all the clothes I made in 2020 video, then you probably are familiar with the jumpsuit we're going to be making today. If you haven't seen that video, by the way, click on the link right here. A lot of you asked for a tutorial on how to make that jumpsuit, and of course I listen. I always listen to you guys. You guys are so amazing and so dear to my heart, so I always take your suggestions into consideration. So definitely, if you have any suggestions on any outfit you want me to make or any video idea whatsoever, let me know in the comment section down below. Anyway, my name is Silem. Very pleased to meet you. Let's get right into the video.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. So I'm using 2.5 yards of fabric for this. The first thing I did was I folded my fabric, and then I measured, or I marked the baseline. And then from that baseline downwards, I'm marking 10 inches and 13 inches. And also 17 inches, which are my bust points, under bust, and half length measurements respectively. So I'm just extending those lines. And now I'm dividing my bust measurement by 4, placing that on the bust point line, marking that point, and adding 2 inches allowance. I did the same thing for my shape measurements, and then I placed that on the half length line, marked that point, and added 2 inches allowance. Now I'm just drawing a line to connect the both points. Now I divided my my shoulder measurement by 2, marked that point, and added 1 inch allowance. Now from the baseline downwards, I'm marking 8 inches, and then I'm drawing a curve to connect that 8 inches mark with the allowance of my shoulder. Now I'm just cutting along that line. I'm also cutting along the half length line as well. Setting that aside, I'm taking another piece of fabric, folding it again, and then placing the front bit on top of the fabric. Now I'm just cutting along the outline of the front bit I had previously cut out, because the bit underneath, or the piece underneath, is going to serve as my back piece. Now, the only difference in the front piece and the back piece is the fact that I kept measurement for zip allowance or zipper allowance. For my neck width measurements, I took 4.5 inches, and for the depth of my neck, I took 3.5 inches in the front. Now for the back, the depth of my neck for the back is 2 inches, while the width is the same with the front. So I just drew a curve to connect both points, and then I'm just cutting along the that curved line I drew. Now I'm just slanting my shoulder slightly. I'm just slanting my shoulder slightly, and then I went ahead to just cut open the zipper allowance. Now for my dart, I'm using I'm marking 4 inches from the center front for the front piece, and then extending that line up to the under bust line. For the back piece, from the baseline, I marked 8 inches downwards, and from the zipper line, I marked 4 inches as well. So this is just the dart I'm creating, or the line for the dart I'm going to create. Now moving on to the short of my jumpsuit, I simply drew a baseline after folding my fabric, and then I marked 12 inches downwards. Now that will serve as my crotch line. And then I also marked 19 inches from the baseline, which is going to serve as the hemline, or the length of my short. Now I'm just marking a point at the crotch line, and then from that point I divided my lap measurements into 2. So I divided my lap measurement by 2, and then I marked that point and added 1 inch allowance. Now I'm taking my shape measurements, dividing that by 4, placing it on the baseline or my waistline, and then marking that point and adding 2 inches allowance to that. Now I'm just drawing a curve to connect both points together. And I also drew a line to connect the other points by the side of the short. Once I've done that, I'm simply just cutting along the lines I created. And that's basically our front bit done. There's no need for a zipper fly since this is a jumpsuit. So the zipper is going to be at the back. So there's no point adding a zipper fly. But if you want to see how to add a zipper fly to your shorts, then definitely click on the link on the top right corner, or check in the description box to see how to do that. So I just took another piece of fabric, folded it, placed the front bit on top of it, and then just cut the side outline. Now I added 1.5 inches at the top part, and then for the bottom part I added 2 inches. Now I'm just drawing curves to connect all those points together, and then cutting along the curved lines I created. Now I'm going to fold the part I had just cut, making sure that I can get the exact point where the crotch aligns, the crotch of the front aligns with the crotch of the back. Now once I get that point, I'm just going to place my tape there and then measure 3 inches, mark that point, and then connect that point with the rest of the parts that I had already cut. So that's what I just did now. Now at the top, I just placed my tape there, measured the top part, which is the baseline, divided that measurement by 2 so I could get the midpoint, and then I created a notch there. That will serve as my dot, or the position where I'm going to put my dot. Now from the baseline, I marked 7 inches downwards, and along the baseline I marked 3 inches. I just created a notch on those 2 points, and then I folded that, and then I'm ironing that down. That's where I'm going to insert my pocket. So for the flared sleeve, I simply folded it lengthwise, folded it widthwise, and folded it diagonally. So I folded it 3 times. I'm going to fold my tape 3 times as well. So 1, 2, and then 3. So that's my tape folded 3 times. But from the first time, I placed the zero mark of my tape at 10 inches. Now that is how wide I want the flare sleeve to be, and then I want the length to be 6 inches long. So that's why I'm marking 6 inches. And then I'm just going to cut a curve along that line I marked at the top and at the bottom. Opening that up, you're going to find that you have a circle. Now moving on to the pockets, I simply folded my fabric, and then I marked 7 inches as the width of the pocket. And then for the length of the pocket, I marked 10 inches. I'm just going to draw a curve to connect those 2 lines, and then I'm going to cut along that line. And that's our pocket done. Now I'm going to go ahead and weave all of the pieces so that everything is nice and neat once I'm done. I took my time to do this because it makes the work so much easier. Now moving on to the sewing machine, I just placed the 2 back pieces that I have. I placed them right sides facing, and I'm just closing up the zipper opening I had cut open earlier. I'm going to open it much later when I'm going to insert the zipper, but for now I need it closed so that I can go ahead and sew the rest of the top part of the jumpsuit. Now for the dots lines I had created, I'm just folding the fabric at that line, and then I just sewed it down. I left like 1/4 of an inch allowance. That's how wide the dot was, not so big. Now moving on to the front part, I also did the same thing. I folded it at that line, and then I also sewed the dots as well. Now once I'm done with that, I'm just going to open up my front piece, and then I'm going to place it, making sure that the right side is facing upwards. Now I'm going to place my back piece on top of the front piece, right sides facing. Now I'm just going to sew along the shoulder. Just going to follow the slanted line, leaving 1/2 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to do that for both shoulders. And once I'm done with that, I'm just going to take just the front piece alone, fold it in half, and then I'm going to mark my bust measurement, which is 35 inches. I'm going to divide that by 4, place that on the bust, and then I'm just going to mark that point. So I'm basically shaping the top part now. I'm doing the same thing with the shape. My shape measurements, I just placed it there, and then I just connected both points. Now I'm placing both sides, wrong sides facing, just so that I can just replicate that measurement I just marked, so I don't have to do it all over again. Now folding it back to the way it was, I'm just joining the front piece and the back piece together. I did that for both sides, and then once I turn it to the right side, this is what it looks like. Now moving on to the shorts, I'm going to start by attaching the pockets. I just placed one piece of the front on the pocket, and then I just replicated that iron line. You know, when I ironed it, there was a line created. I just replicated that line, and then I cut it out basically. So once I placed the front piece on top of the pocket, I just cut it out along that line, and I also cut it out on the short itself. So on the pocket and on the short, I cut it out. Now placing the pocket on the short right side facing, I'm just sewing that down, 1/2 inch seam allowance as usual. Now opening that up, I'm just making sure that the allowance is facing the pocket and not the short, and then I'm just top stitching that. Now I'm just going to fold that up and then sew again. This just makes sure that the pocket stays right inside. That's all this does. It makes sure that the pocket stays inside and it doesn't come out, and it's also neat as well. Now I'm going to fold the pocket again, and then I'm going to sew the short to the pocket at the top or at the waist part of the short. I'm also going to tack it at the side as well. This is just to make sure that the pocket stays put while I sew the rest of the short. This is what it looks like basically. I'm going to turn it to the other side, and I'm going to sew close the pocket. Okay, so remember that the pocket was open, so I'm just going to sew that closed. And this is what we have basically. I did this for both front pieces. Now moving on to the back piece of my short, I'm just folding it at that part where I had notched at while I was cutting, and I'm just making the dart there. The dart is 5 inches long, and I made it 1/2 inch at the widest part of the dart. Now placing one of the front pieces with one of the back pieces, I'm just going ahead to join both pieces together. I left about 1.5 inches allowance at the top, but as I got to the bottom of the short, I reduced that to 1 inch. This is so that the waist is, fitted and tight, while the rest of the short is a bit looser. I find that it fits better. Now I did that for both pieces. Now placing the joined front and back piece with the other joined front and back piece, I'm just sewing that crotch curve. I hope this makes sense, guys. If any of this is confusing, you can go and watch my how to make shorts video. It is a bit more detailed than this one, especially with making the shorts part of it. So basically I just simply placed the front and the back that was joined with the other front and the back that was joined, and then I sewed the crotches of both of them together. Now once I'm done with that, I'm going to hold it and then open it up, and you find that you have your shorts almost done. I'm going to take the crotch part of it. I'm going to start from the crotch part, making sure that the allowances are lined for both of them, and then I'm just going to sew down from the midpoints to one end of from the midpoint to the hemline, and from the midpoint again to the other hemline. Guys, English is difficult. Honestly, English is hard, so just bear with me as I try to explain what I'm doing. So from the midpoint, which is the crotch point, I just sewed it down to the hemline on one side and down to the hemline on the other. Now going back to the top part, I'm just going to trim out the armhole. Now I simply drew the midline, which is like where the zipper line is, or the center back is, and then I placed the center of my shoulder. My shoulder is 14 inches. I placed the center on that line, and then I marked 0 inches on one shoulder and 14 inches on the other shoulder. Now from the shoulder downwards, I'm just marking 8 inches on both sides, and then I'm just going to draw a curve to join the shoulder and the armhole points that I marked. Now from that shoulder as well downwards, I'm marking 15 inches, which is going to serve as my half length. So your half length, basically you're going to get it by adding 2 inches to your underbust. My underbust is 13 inches. I just added 2 inches to make that 15 inches. Now you can make it 15.5 inches when you're cutting, so that you have half-inch allowance to sew. So I'm just cutting along the curved armhole line I had created. Now after cutting both the front and the back with the same curve, I'm going ahead to trim the front part a bit more, just so that it fits better. I'm also cutting along that half length line as well. Now turning this to the back, there's a trick I'm going to show you guys. In order to avoid that zip bulge that usually appears at the waist, you have to turn your fabric to the wrong side. Take the zipper, place it in a way that that's what you're concentrating on or you're focusing on, and then just trim it just a bit. Even if it's 1 inch or half an inch, just trim it a bit so you have the back, that back half length zipper side going a bit upwards. It helps to remove that zipper bulge. Now I want to attach the flare sleeve. You remember it's a cold shoulder, so from the shoulder I'm going to start joining the sleeve at 5 inches downwards, so that from 5 inches upwards the person's or my shoulder is visible. Now taking my flare sleeve, I found that the sleeve I had cut was a bit too small to fit into the part I wanted to, or the armhole rather, so I just trimmed it a bit. Now starting from the side seam, which is where the armhole is, I'm just joining the flare sleeve, and then once I get to that 5 inch mark I had marked previously, I'm going to stop there. So I did that for both of them, so I didn't sew beyond that 5 inch mark. Now I'm going ahead to pipe the neck of my top. So what I simply did was I simply just opened up the bias and then placed it on the neck on the right side, and then I just sewed it around the neck all the way around. And once I got to the end, I just cut out the excess bias, and then I folded the bias inward, so to the wrong side, and then I'm just sewing it all the way around as well. Now I did the same thing for the cold shoulder sleeve, so I just piped it as well. And then moving on to my shorts, now I'm going to turn it to the back. I'm going to open up that center seam at the back, and then I'm just going to start from there, take the top of my jumpsuit, and I'm just going to join it all the way around. So I'm starting from the zipper line on the half length, and then I'm just joining the top to the bottom. And once I'm done with that, this is what we have. I've joined the top to the bottom, making sure that everything is aligned, everything looks nice and neat. This is what the back looks like. Now I'm going to turn this to the wrong side, and then from that joining of the front and the back, I'm going to mark 8 inches downwards. That is where my zipper is going to end. So I'm going to go ahead and tack that point so that it doesn't loosen beyond that, because I'm going to lose from that point all the way to the top. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just simply loosening that I'm loosening that seam, and then I'm placing my zipper. Now I'm using an invisible zipper. No, I'm not using an invisible zipper, I'm using a regular zipper for this. I just simply place the zipper right size facing with the left side of my jumpsuit, and then I'm just sewing the zipper all the way down to that point I had tacked earlier. And then I'm just cutting out the excess thread, and then I flipped it over to the other side, and then I'm sewing the other side of the zipper to the right side of the jumpsuit all the way to the top. So initially I sewed the zipper from the top to the bottom, and now I'm sewing the zipper from the bottom all the way to the top. If you guys want a very detailed tutorial on how to insert zippers, like really get into the whole explanation, I'm going to be happy to do that, but I want you guys to let me know if that's something you would want to watch. Now I'm just cutting out the excess zipper, folding it inward, and just stacking that. I did that for both sides. And basically that's it, guys. It's done. Everything looks nice and neat. I hemmed the bottom of the shorts, but basically that's our jumpsuit all done, and this is what it looks like. So lovely. tell me, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the green one or do you prefer this one? I honestly love the fabric of this one, so I love this one more. But let me know which of them is your favorite, the green one or this one. I think this is monochrome. Yeah, it has black and white, so it's monochrome, while the other one is green. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.